The janitor's daughter spent her days alone at the airport watching planes. When she rushed to stop a takeoff, the millionaires in first class laughed, until the pilot's face turned white. Sophia's worn sneakers squeaked against the polished floor of Atlanta International Airport's Terminal B. The sound echoed through the familiar corridor as she made her way past the security checkpoint, where Officer Martinez gave her the usual nod. Her backpack, heavy with textbooks, thumped against her back with each step. "Hey there, Sophia," Officer Martinez called out, his radio crackling. "Your mom's on level 3 today." "Thanks." Sophia adjusted the straps of her backpack, her small hands gripping the frayed fabric. The afternoon sun streamed through the massive windows, catching dust particles in its beams. A family rushed past her. Mom, Dad, and 2 kids, all matching luggage and bright smiles. Sophia's chest tightened. She watched the father lift his youngest onto his shoulders, the child's laughter bouncing off the terminal walls. Her own father's face flashed in her mind. The last time she'd seen him, standing in this same terminal 8 years ago, promising he'd be back soon. She was 3 then. Now, at 11, she knew better. The memory dissolved as a voice crackled over the PA system. "Final boarding call for Delta Airlines Flight 2876 to Chicago O'Hare Gate B22. Sophia picked up her pace, heading to her usual spot. The observation area near Gate B15 had the best view of the runways. She timed it perfectly. The 4:30 p.m. rush was about to begin. Her spot, a worn blue chair in the corner, waited for her. Sophia dropped her backpack and pulled out her prized possession, Understanding Aircraft Systems, borrowed from the public library for the 3rd time. The pages were dog-eared, but she handled them with care as she opened to the chapter on hydraulic systems. "Miss Sophia?" A tired voice called from behind. Her mother stood there in her gray custodial uniform, dark circles under her eyes visible even in the harsh airport lighting. "Baby, did you finish your homework?" "Almost done, Mom. Just math left." Sophia smiled, but her eyes caught the slight tremor in her mother's hands. "Extra shifts again. The new uniform money?" Her mother's shoulders slumped. "They're saying everyone needs the updated ones by next month. Don't you worry about that, though." She tried to smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I've got another bathroom to clean. Stay where I can find you, okay?" "Yes, Mom." Sophia watched her mother's retreating form, noticing how she favored her left leg. Too many hours on her feet. A commotion drew her attention back to the terminal. A group of passengers in business suits clustered around the desk at Gate B17, voices rising. "This is unacceptable." A man in an expensive suit slammed his hand on the counter. "I paid for first class. I have a meeting in New York tonight." The gate agent, a young woman with perfectly styled hair, maintained her professional smile. "I understand, sir. We're doing everything we can to minimize the delay." Sophia's mother appeared with her cleaning cart, carefully maneuvering around the angry passengers. One of them stepped back, bumping into the cart. "Watch it," he snapped, not even turning around. Sophia's fingers gripped her book tighter. Her mother said nothing, just straightened the supplies on her cart and moved on. This was their reality, invisible until someone needed something to complain about. The afternoon wore on. Sophia alternated between her math homework and watching the planes. She knew them all. Boeing 737s with their distinctive winglets, Airbus A320s with their slightly higher nose angle, regional Embraer jets with their characteristic tail design. At 5:45 p.m., something caught her eye. A 737 was being prepped at Gate B21. Standard procedure, she'd watched it hundreds of times. But something was different. The ground crew's movements seemed rushed, hurried. And they're just visible from her angle, a pattern on the ground under the right wing. Sophia sat up straighter, her math homework forgotten. She'd memorized every page of her aircraft manual, including the section on pre-flight inspections. That pattern wasn't right. It wasn't the usual condensation from the air conditioning system. This was something else. Her heart began to pound as she watched more passengers board, including the angry businessman from earlier. First class, by the way he strode past the gate agent. The pattern under the wing grew larger. A young ground crew member walked past, his orange vest reflecting the setting sun. "Excuse me," Sophia called out. "Sir? There's something." He barely glanced at her. "Not now, kid." We're behind schedule. Sophia stood up, her hands sweating. Through the window, she could see the pattern clearly now. Her eyes darted to her open book, then back to the plane. Everything she'd studied, everything she'd read about aircraft systems told her one thing. The plane shouldn't take off. But who would listen to a janitor's daughter? The boarding call for final passengers echoed through the terminal. Sophia looked around desperately. Her mother was nowhere in sight, probably cleaning bathrooms 2 terminals away. The ground crew was finishing their checks, but they weren't looking at the right spot. They couldn't see what she could see from her angle. More passengers filed onto the plane. The gate agent began collecting her papers. In 15 minutes, that plane would push back from the gate. In 20, it would taxi to the runway. Sophia's heart hammered against her ribs. She had to make a choice. Be invisible like always, or do something that would definitely get her in trouble. The fuel pattern under the wing grew larger. She made her decision. Sophia grabbed her aviation manual and ran to the gate desk. Her sneakers squeaked against the floor as she dodged rolling suitcases and distracted passengers staring at their phones. "Miss, please, miss," Sophia called out to the gate agent. "There's something wrong with the plane." The gate agent looked up from her computer, her practiced smile faltering slightly. "Sweetie, where are your parents?" "My mom works here, but please look." Sophia opened her manual to the diagram of the 737's fuel system. "There's a leak under the right wing. The pattern is all wrong." "A leak?" The agent's smile became strained. "Honey, our ground crew conducts thorough inspections. They're professionals, but they can't see it from where they're standing." Sophia's voice rose. A few passengers waiting to board turned to stare. "The angle is wrong. You have to look from over here." The businessman from earlier stepped forward, checking his Rolex. "What's the holdup?" "Nothing, sir," the agent assured him. "Just a confused child. Your boarding group is ready." "I'm not confused." Sophia's fingers trembled as she pointed to her book. "The fuel system manifold is here, and if there's a leak in this section, it wouldn't be visible from ground level. But from this height, security." The gate agent pressed a button on her desk phone. "We have a situation at gate B21. Sophia's stomach dropped. Through the window, she could see the fuel pattern spreading. The ground crew was finishing their walk-around, checking off items on their tablets. Officer Martinez appeared, his familiar face now stern. "Sophia? What's going on here?" "Officer Martinez, please." She held up her manual. "The plane, her mother works in cleaning." The gate agent cut in. "She's usually quiet, but she's disrupting boarding." More passengers gathered, muttering and checking their watches. A woman in a business suit laughed. "Are we really delaying for this?" "The child's probably just looking for attention," another passenger said loudly. Sophia's cheeks burned. "No, I'm not. Look at the pattern. It matches the diagram of a level 3 fuel leak. Page 147. She flipped through her book frantically. "See? The spread pattern is consistent with Sophia." Officer Martinez put a hand on her shoulder. "Let's go find your mother." "But now, young lady," the businessman snorted as he walked past. "Maybe teach your cleaning staff to control their kids better." Tears stung Sophia's eyes, but she blinked them back. She wouldn't cry. "Not here. Not now. The plane can't take off," she whispered. "The plane is fine," Officer Martinez said gently. "Come on." Sophia pulled away from his grip. She had one more chance. The ground crew was still outside. She ran to the emergency exit door. "Hey!" Officer Martinez called after her. The alarm would sound if she opened it. She'd get in huge trouble. Her mother might even lose her job. But if that pattern meant what she thought it meant... Sophia's hand hovered over the emergency bar. An older man in a mechanic's uniform walked past, toolbox in hand. His badge identified him as senior maintenance. "Sir!" Sophia jumped in front of him. "Please just look. 5 minutes." He stopped, annoyed. "Look at what?" "The fuel leak under the right wing. You can't see it from the ground, but from this angle," she pointed through the window. "See how the pattern spreads? It's not normal condensation. The color is wrong, and the spread pattern matches a level 3 leak from the main fuel manifold." The mechanic frowned. "How do you know about fuel manifolds?" Sophia thrust her manual at him. "I study them. Every day. Please, just look where I'm pointing. Compare it to the diagram." 5 minutes." Maybe it was the desperation in her voice. Maybe it was the detailed technical terms she'd used. The mechanic sighed, set down his toolbox, and walked to the window. "Right there," Sophia said. "See how it's spreading in a spiral pattern? That's characteristic of a pressure leak, not a gravity leak." And the color? The mechanic's expression changed. He pressed his face closer to the glass, then grabbed his radio. "Ground crew, hold position. I need a delay on the pushback for flight 2876. He turned to Sophia. "Show me that diagram again." Relief flooded her body. Someone was finally listening. But her relief was short-lived. The gate agent was on the phone, her face tight with concern. 2 more security officers appeared. And through the terminal windows, Sophia could see her mother running toward the gate, her face twisted with worry. Over the PA system, a voice announced, "Ladies and gentlemen, Flight 2876 will be experiencing a slight delay. We apologize for any inconvenience." The businessman exploded. "This is ridiculous. You're delaying a flight because of some kid." Other passengers joined in, their angry voices filling the terminal. Phones came out, recording the scene. Sophia stood frozen as her mother reached the gate, out of breath. "What did you do?" her mother whispered, gripping her arm. "What did you do?" Outside, the senior mechanic had called over the ground crew. They were all staring at the spot Sophia had identified, their faces growing serious. The mechanic came back inside, heading straight for the gate agent. "Call operations. Now. We need to deplane." "Deplane?" The agent's eyes widened. "But now." The mechanic's voice carried through the terminal. "That kid just spotted a major fuel leak that could have." He stopped, glancing at the crowded gate area. "Just make the call." Chaos erupted. Passengers who had heard him began backing away from the windows. Others demanded explanations. The businessman's face had gone from red to pale. Security officers began clearing the gate area. Sophia felt her mother's grip tighten on her arm. Through the windows, emergency vehicles approached the plane, their lights flashing in the dusk. "Mom," Sophia whispered, "I had to." "The plane, shoo." Her mother pulled her close, but Sophia could feel her trembling. "Just shoo." A man in an airport operations uniform strode up, flanked by more security officers. "Who spotted the leak?" The senior mechanic pointed at Sophia. "You?" The operations manager looked down at her. "How did you?" He stopped, noticing her mother's cleaning uniform. "Who authorized you to be in this area?" "Sir." Sophia's mother stepped forward. "I can explain." "Yes." He cut her off. "You will explain?" "In detail." "Both of you, come with me." As they followed him away from the gate, Sophia could hear the passengers being instructed to collect their bags for rebooking. Some were still filming. Others whispered and pointed. The businessman caught her eye as she passed. He wasn't sneering anymore. "Operations office," the manager said curtly. "Now." Sophia clutched her aviation manual to her chest as they walked. She'd prevented a disaster, but as she saw her mother's face, she wondered at what cost. The sun set behind the airport's towers, casting long shadows through the terminal windows. In the distance, emergency lights still flashed around the grounded plane. Sophia had made her choice. Now she had to face the consequences. The operations office smelled like coffee and printer paper. Sophia sat in an oversized chair, her feet barely touching the ground. Her mother stood behind her, hands gripping the chair's backrest. "Start from the beginning," the operations manager, Mr. Wells, said. His nameplate gleamed under the fluorescent lights. "How long have you been watching our aircraft?" Sophia swallowed hard. "Since Mom started working here. 3 years, 2 months, and 14 days. And today you notice something unusual? The fuel leak pattern." Sophia opened her manual to the dog-eared page. "See, a normal condensation pattern from the air conditioning system spreads differently. This was spiral-shaped, indicating pressure. Where did you learn this?" Mr. Wells interrupted. "Books. The library has a whole section on aviation. And I watch. Every day." A knock on the door interrupted them. The senior mechanic who'd verified the leak entered, holding a tablet. "Preliminary report," he said, handing it to Mr. Wells. "The kid was right. Class 3 fuel leak from a faulty seal in the main fuel manifold. If that plane had taken off..." "That's enough, Jim." Mr. Wells glanced at Sophia, but she'd already done the calculations. Full tanks for New York, probable flight time 2 hours and 17 minutes. Fuel consumption rate for a 737 at cruising altitude. She took a shaky breath. The leak would have become critical somewhere over Virginia. The adults stared at her. What? She shifted in her chair. I read a lot. Mr. Wells rubbed his temples. Mrs. Jackson, your daughter has been spending unsupervised time in secure areas of this airport. That's a serious security violation. I stay in the public areas. Sophia protested. The observation windows are for everyone. Sir, her mother's voice trembled. I'm a single mother. After school is not our concern, Mr. Wells cut in. This facility isn't a daycare center. The senior mechanic, Jim, cleared his throat. The girl just prevented a potential disaster. By breaking protocol, Mr. Wells stood up, pacing. Do you know how many regulations were violated? The liability issues alone, another knock. A woman in a crisp suit entered, holding a stack of papers. Sir, the passengers are demanding answers. The media is already calling. Mr. Wells groaned. Of course they are. The first-class passengers are particularly vocal. Sophia remembered the angry businessman. Her stomach churned. Sir, her mother spoke softly. Please, I can't lose this job. Mr. Wells turned to the woman in the suit. Sarah, what's the standard procedure here? There isn't one. Sarah checked her papers. We've never had a civilian minor identify a mechanical issue that was missed by ground crew. Especially not. She glanced at Sophia's mother's uniform. Not what? Sophia stood up. Not the cleaning lady's kid? Sophia. Her mother grabbed her shoulder. No, Mom. They missed it. The ground crew missed it, and I saw it. And now they're mad because of who we are. Young lady, Mr. Wells started. I know planes. Tears stung her eyes, but she kept going. I know every model that takes off from this airport. I know the sound of a healthy engine versus a compressor stall. I know the correct taxi patterns and weight distributions and fuel consumption rates. I know these things because I study them every single day while my mom cleans bathrooms and deals with people who don't even look at her. The room fell silent. Jim the mechanic spoke first. She's right about the engines. I've heard her calling out maintenance issues before they show up on our sensors. You knew about this? Mr. Wells turned to him. Didn't know it was the cleaning lady's kid. But yeah, we got a sort of airport ghost. Always seems to know when something's off. Sarah checked her tablet. Sir, the media is running with the story. Child saves plane. It's trending. Mr. Wells sank into his chair. Perfect. A commotion outside drew their attention. Through the office windows, they could see a group of passengers arguing with customer service representatives. The angry businessman was at the front, jabbing his finger at someone. They want to speak to whoever grounded the plane, Sarah reported. Absolutely not. Mr. Wells straightened his tie. Mrs. Jackson, take your daughter home. We'll discuss your employment status tomorrow. But Sophia started. Tomorrow, he repeated firmly. They left through a side door, avoiding the crowd in the main terminal. The evening air was cool on Sophia's tear-stained cheeks. Their old Toyota sat alone in the employee parking lot, paint peeling under the security lights. Mom? Sophia's voice was small. I'm sorry. Her mother didn't answer. They drove home in silence, streetlights flashing across their faces. Their apartment building looked darker than usual, or maybe it was just Sophia's mood. Inside, her mother finally spoke. Go to bed, Sophia. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. But what about your job? Bed. Now. Sophia lay awake, still in her clothes, listening to her mother's quiet sobs through the thin walls. On her bedside table, the aviation manual's pages fluttered in the breeze from the broken air conditioner. Her phone buzzed. A news alert. 11-year-old grounds commercial flight. Prevents potential disaster. Another buzz. Airport sources confirm. Child spots critical fuel leak missed by professionals. And another. Questions raised about airport security after cleaning staff's daughter. Sophia turned off her phone. Through her window, she could see planes taking off in the distance, their lights blinking against the night sky. Usually, the sight calmed her. Tonight it made her chest hurt. A soft knock on her door. Her mother entered, eyes red but dry. Scoot over, she said, sitting on the bed. You really know all those things about planes? Sophia nodded. And you're sure about what you saw today? Yes. Sophia bit her lip. I couldn't let it take off, Mom. I couldn't. Her mother was quiet for a long moment. Your father, she finally said, he loved planes too? Sophia stiffened. They never talked about him. He wanted to be a pilot. Never made it. Her mother smoothed Sophia's blanket. But you see things differently, don't you? You see what others miss. Fat lot of good it did us, Sophia muttered. Maybe. Her mother stood up. Get some sleep. They want us back at the airport at 8 tomorrow morning. Are you fired? We'll find out together. She paused at the door. Sophia, next time you spot something wrong, don't wait so long to speak up, even if people don't want to listen. After her mother left, Sophia pulled out her manual again. The pages were worn, the diagrams memorized. She traced the fuel system illustration with her finger, following the path that had led to today's discovery. Her phone buzzed again. This time, it was a text from Officer Martinez. You did good, kid. See you tomorrow. Outside, planes continued their eternal dance of takeoffs and landings. Tomorrow would bring consequences, questions, maybe even punishment. But tonight, somewhere over Virginia, a plane wasn't falling from the sky. Sophia closed her eyes, her aviation manual clutched to her chest, and finally drifted off to sleep. 8 o'clock sharp. Sophia and her mother stood outside the airport administration building, a stark glass structure separate from the main terminals. The morning sun reflected off its windows, making Sophia squint. Remember, her mother said, straightening Sophia's collar. Let me do the talking. The security guard at the desk barely looked at them. 3rd floor. Mr. Thompson's office. Thompson. Not Wells. Sophia's stomach tightened. The elevator smelled like leather and coffee. When it opened, they found themselves in a hallway lined with aviation photos. Sophia recognized every plane model on display. A tall man in an expensive suit waited by a corner office. Mrs. Jackson? Sophia? I'm Richard Thompson, Chief Operations Officer. Sophia's mother gripped her hand tighter. This wasn't just a supervisor. This was the boss's boss. Mr. Thompson's office had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the runways. A scale model of a Boeing 787 sat on his desk. Please sit. He gestured to the leather chairs. We have a lot to discuss. Before either could speak, his phone buzzed. Sir, CNN is on line 1. They want a statement about the girl who, not now. He clicked it off. Mrs. Jackson, do you know how many protocols your daughter broke yesterday? Sir, I take full responsibility. 17. He leaned forward. 17 separate security protocols. Not to mention the liability issues, the potential union grievances from our maintenance staff, and the PR nightmare of a child accessing secure areas. Sophia stared at her shoes. They were her only pair, the soles wearing thin. However, Mr. Thompson continued, our maintenance team confirmed this morning that the fuel leak would have become catastrophic at cruising altitude. He picked up a report. Potential loss of life. 217 passengers and crew. The number hung in the air. A knock at the door. Jim, the senior mechanic from yesterday, entered with a tablet. Show them, Mr. Thompson said. Jim placed the tablet on the desk. A video played, Sophia at her usual spot, then running to warn the gate agent, then trying to show her manual to anyone who would listen. Security footage, Mr. Thompson explained. We also have this, another video, Sophia from months ago, pointing out something to a ground crew member. Then another clip, her gesturing at an engine to a maintenance worker. How long has this been going on, Jim? The mechanic shifted. About 2 years, sir. She spots things. Small things usually. A loose panel here. An odd sound there. Most of us thought she was just an aviation buff. And none of you reported this? Honestly, she was helpful. Like having an extra set of eyes. Mr. Thompson turned to Sophia. Where did you learn about aircraft systems? Sophia glanced at her mother, who nodded slightly. The library first, Sophia said. Then YouTube videos from mechanic training programs. I found some old maintenance manuals in the airport's recycling bin. And I watch. All the time. She can identify every aircraft in our fleet by sound alone, Jim added. Even I can't do that. Mr. Thompson stared at Sophia for a long moment. Mrs. Jackson, Your daughter has been conducting unofficial safety inspections of our aircraft for 2 years. That's a massive security breach. Sophia's mother started to speak, but he held up his hand. It's also the kind of natural talent our industry desperately needs. A new tension filled the room. Hope, maybe. Or fear of hope. Sir? Sophia's mother's voice wavered. The media is running wild with this story. Child genius saves plane. Hidden prodigy in airport. They're calling you the terminal angel. He looked at Sophia. We can fight this publicity, or we can use it. The intercom buzzed again. Sir, the Today Show is calling. Mr. Thompson ignored it. Here's what's going to happen. First, Mrs. Jackson, you're being reassigned. Effective immediately. Please, she whispered, I need this job. To the administrative division. Better hours, better pay. We can't have our new safety consultant's mother cleaning toilets. Sophia's head snapped up. Safety what? Consultant. Unofficial, of course, until you're older. But we're setting up an educational program. Top aviation schools are already calling. Her mother's grip on the armrest loosened slightly. I don't understand. Your daughter has a gift. One that saved hundreds of lives yesterday. We'd be idiots to ignore that because of bureaucratic rules. He stood, walking to the window. On the tarmac below, planes taxied in their eternal dance. There are conditions, he continued. Sophia needs proper training. Real classes, not just books from the library. And we need to formalize her presence here. No more wandering around unsupervised. We can't afford, her mother started. The airport will cover it. All of it. Consider it an investment in future safety. Sophia's heart pounded. Really? Really? He turned back to them. But first, we need to deal with the media circus downstairs. And the passengers from yesterday's flight? They're demanding to meet you. As if on cue, raised voices echoed from the hallway. Sophia recognized one. The angry businessman from yesterday. I don't care if they're in a meeting, he shouted. My law firm represents half the passengers on that flight, and we demand, Mr. Thompson sighed. Shall we face them together? Sophia stood, smoothing her worn dress. Can I bring my manual? Bring everything. He smiled slightly. You'll need to explain some technical details. These people want to know exactly how an 11-year-old spotted something our entire ground crew missed. They walked to the conference room, Sophia clutching her manual. Through the glass walls, she could see the businessman, no longer angry, but intense in a different way. Next to him sat other passengers from yesterday's flight, including a woman holding a baby. Ready? Mr. Thompson asked. Sophia looked at her mother, who now stood straighter, her cleaning uniform replaced with office attire borrowed from HR. Remember what you told me last night, Mom? About speaking up even when people don't want to listen? Her mother nodded. I'm ready. The conference room doors opened. Camera flashes erupted. The businessman stood, his lawyer face replaced with something closer to awe. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Thompson announced, meet Sophia Jackson, the young lady who saved your lives yesterday. She has quite a story to tell you. The conference room felt smaller with 20 people staring at Sophia. Her manual lay open on the polished table, its worn pages a stark contrast to the room's luxury. Walk us through it again, the businessman said. His name was Mr. Roberts, and he'd traded yesterday's anger for intense curiosity. How exactly did you spot the leak? Sophia pointed to her diagram. The fuel system in a 737 has specific pressure points. When there's a leak, it creates a distinct pattern. Her finger traced the illustration. From ground level, it looked like normal condensation. But from my angle at the observation window, the window where you spend your afternoons, a woman interrupted. Rachel Chun, the lawyer representing the passengers. While your mother cleans? Yes. Sophia didn't look up from her manual. I watched the planes. For how long? Mr. Roberts leaned forward. 3 years, 2 months, and 15 days now. The room fell silent. Even Mr. Thompson, standing by the door, raised his eyebrows. And during this time, Rachel continued, you've been conducting unofficial safety inspections? I just watch. Sophia's voice got smaller. And sometimes, if I see something wrong, I tell the ground crew. Jim the mechanic spoke up from his corner. She's caught dozens of minor issues before they became major problems. Yesterday wasn't a fluke. Rachel made notes on her legal pad. Mr. Thompson, Your airport employed a minor as an unofficial safety inspector. We did not employ, Mr. Thompson started. No, Sophia cut in. They didn't employ me. I love planes. I watch them. I learn about them. And yesterday, I saw something dangerous. The woman with the baby stood up. My daughter is 4 months old. Her voice trembled. If that plane had taken off, she didn't finish. She didn't need to. Mr. Roberts cleared his throat. We're not here to cause trouble. The opposite, actually. He opened his briefcase. My firm represents several aviation companies. We'd like to offer Sophia a scholarship. Full ride, all the way through college. Sophia's mother gasped softly. We're not the only ones. Rachel gestured to the stack of papers in front of her. Every major airline has called. Aviation schools are offering immediate admission. The FAA wants to revise their inspection protocols based on her observation angle. Mr. Thompson stepped forward, which is why we're implementing a formal educational program here at the airport. Not good enough? Mr. Roberts stood. This girl has a gift. She needs proper training, proper resources. With all due respect, Sophia's mother spoke for the first time, her voice firm. We can decide what's best for my daughter. Another knock at the door. Sarah, Mr. Thompson's assistant, entered with a tablet. Sir, the story's gone national. Every major network wants an interview. Sophia's stomach churned. On the tablet screen, she saw her own face, captured from the security footage. Terminal Angel saves hundreds. Child prodigy spots critical malfunction. Airport janitor's daughter prevents disaster. This is just the beginning, Rachel said. Everyone will want a piece of this story. The room erupted in discussion. Scholarship offers, interview requests, training programs, book deals, movie rights. Sophia's head spun. She looked down at her manual, at the familiar diagrams that had always made sense when nothing else did. Now, even they seemed to blur. Stop! Her mother's voice cut through the chaos. My daughter is 11 years old. She's not a product to be marketed. Mrs. Jackson, Mr. Roberts began, you have to understand the opportunity. I understand that my daughter saved your life yesterday, and now you're treating her like a commodity. The baby started crying. Someone's phone buzzed with another news alert. Outside the conference room windows, Sophia could see more reporters gathering in the lobby. Maybe, Jim spoke up, we should ask Sophia what she wants. All eyes turned to her. Sophia looked at her mother, then at her manual, then at the planes visible through the windows beyond. I want to learn, she said finally. Really learn, not just from books. But she touched her manual's worn cover. I want to stay here too. This is where I see the planes. Mr. Thompson nodded slowly. What if we compromise? A structured program here at the airport with certified instructors, plus enrollment in proper aviation courses. And the scholarship? Mr. Roberts pressed. In a trust, Sophia's mother said firmly. For her education only, Rachel made more notes. We'll need to formalize her position here. Safety protocols, supervision, proper documentation. Done? Mr. Thompson turned to Sophia. But no more unauthorized inspections. Everything by the book from now on. Sophia nodded, then frowned. What about Mom's job? Already handled. He smiled slightly. Administrative position, as discussed. Better hours, better pay. And benefits, Rachel added. Full benefits. The meeting continued, adults discussing details that made Sophia's head hurt. Legal terms, contract clauses, insurance policies. Through it all, she kept one eye on the windows, watching the planes take off and land. A 737 taxied past, the same model as yesterday, but not the same plane. That one sat in a hangar now, mechanics swarming over it, studying the leak she'd spotted. Finally, the room began to clear. Mr. Roberts lingered. Sophia? He handed her a business card. When you're ready for college, call me. Any aviation school in the world. My firm will make it happen. After everyone left, only Sophia, her mother, Mr. Thompson, and Jim remained. Well, Mr. Thompson sighed. That was intense. Sir? Sophia bit her lip. Can I still watch the planes? He laughed. That's literally going to be your job now. But first, he slid a folder across the table. Homework. Inside were aircraft manuals. Real ones, not photocopies from the recycling bin. maintenance logs, technical specifications, and on top, a sheet of paper that made her breath catch. Atlanta International Airport, Junior Safety Observer Program. It's a new position, he explained, created specifically for you. But you'll have to earn it. These manuals? Know them inside out. Weekly tests, proper certifications, no shortcuts. Sophia ran her fingers over the manual's pristine pages. When do I start? Tomorrow. Oh, and one more thing. He reached under the table and pulled out a box. Inside was a navy blue vest with an airport logo and a name tag. Sophia Jackson, Safety Observer Trainee. For proper access this time, he said. No more sneaking around. Sophia hugged the vest to her chest. Her mother wiped away tears. Don't make me regret this, Mr. Thompson said, but he was smiling. They left through a back entrance, avoiding the reporters. In the parking lot, Sophia's mother stopped. You're sure about this, baby? It's a lot of pressure. Sophia looked at her new vest, then at the planes overhead. Mom, for the first time, I don't have to pretend I don't see things. I can actually help. Her mother hugged her tight. Your father would be proud. For once, the mention of him didn't hurt. Sophia had found her own wings. 1 week later, Sophia stood before the full airport operations board. The hearing room dwarfed her, with its high ceiling and rows of stern-faced executives. Her new safety vest felt stiff and heavy. Please state your name for the record, the board secretary said into a microphone. Sophia Marie Jackson. Age: 11 years and 4 months. And you're here today for your final certification review as a junior safety observer. Is that correct? Sophia nodded, then remembered the microphone. Yes, ma'am. Mr. Thompson sat at the end of the long table, his face carefully neutral. Next to him, Rachel Chen watched with her legal pad ready. The rest of the board members, 12 in total, studied their tablets, which contained Sophia's test results from the past week. Miss Jackson, the board chairman began, your academic evaluations are remarkable. Perfect scores on aircraft systems knowledge, maintenance protocols, and safety regulations. However, he peered at her over his glasses. We have concerns. Sophia's stomach tightened. In the audience section behind her, she heard her mother shift in her seat. What concerns, sir? You're 11. The chairman gestured to the thick binder before him. These test scores match those of certified aviation mechanics with decades of experience. Some might suggest that I cheated. Sophia's voice came out stronger than she expected. The thought has been raised. Mr. Thompson started to speak, but Sophia stepped forward. Quiz me. Excuse me? Right now. Ask me anything about any aircraft in this airport's fleet. Systems, maintenance schedules, safety protocols, anything. The room fell silent. Then one of the board members, an older woman with silver hair, smiled slightly. Very well. Boeing 737-800. Right engine shows irregular N1 compression readings during spool-up. Walk us through your inspection sequence. Sophia closed her eyes, picturing the engine. First, check the engine inlet for foreign object damage or distortion. Then inspect the fan blades for any signs of damage or imbalance. Monitor the N1 gauge during engine start. Normal range is 56.5% to 58% at idle. If readings fall outside that range, she continued for 5 minutes, detailing every step, every measurement, every possible cause and solution. When she finished, the silver-haired woman nodded approvingly. Airbus A320, cabin pressurization fault indicator illuminates at 20,000 feet. Another board member called out. Again, Sophia didn't hesitate. System by system, component by component, she broke down the entire pressurization system and its potential failure points. For an hour, they grilled her. Every question answered in perfect technical detail. Even the trick questions, the ones with misleading information or impossible scenarios, she caught and corrected. Finally, the chairman held up his hand. I think we've established the authenticity of your knowledge. But there's still the matter of your age and experience. This position would give you significant responsibility. Sir? Sophia pulled out her old manual. May I show you something? He nodded. She opened to a page covered in neat handwriting. These are my observation logs. 3 years of watching planes from that window. Every unusual sound, every odd movement, every potential issue I spotted. She turned more pages. Dates, times, tail numbers, specific concerns. Some were nothing. Some were caught by the ground crew before I could report them. But some, like the fuel leak, Rachel Chin supplied. Yes, but it wasn't luck, and it wasn't just that one time. Sophia placed her logbook on the table. I've been doing this job unofficially for years. Now I just want to do it properly. The chairman picked up her logbook, flipping through pages of meticulous notes. He passed it to the silver-haired woman, who studied it intently. These observations, she said, they match our maintenance records. Every single one. Mr. Thompson cleared his throat. Members of the board, what you're seeing is not just accumulated knowledge. It's dedication, attention to detail, the very qualities we look for in our safety personnel. She's still a child, someone objected. Yes, Rachel Chin stood. A child who saved hundreds of lives because she saw something everyone else missed. Are we really going to deny her the chance to do that officially, with proper training and supervision, just because of her age? The chairman consulted with his colleagues in whispers. Sophia stood straight, her heart pounding but her face calm. Behind her, she could feel her mother's presence, solid and supportive. After what felt like hours, the chairman spoke. Sophia Jackson, this board has never faced a situation quite like yours. We have protocols, procedures, minimum age requirements. He paused. But we also have a responsibility to passenger safety. Your actions last week proved that sometimes the most valuable perspectives come from unexpected places. He lifted a stamp and pressed it to a document. Certification approved with conditions. You'll work under direct supervision. Limited hours to accommodate school. Regular evaluations. And he actually smiled. Please try not to make the rest of our safety team look bad. The room erupted in applause. Mr. Thompson beamed. Rachel Chin made rapid notes. And Sophia's mother rushed forward to hug her daughter. But Sophia's attention was already drawn to the window beyond the hearing room. A plane was taking off, its engines making a slightly unusual sound. Sir? She turned to Mr. Thompson. That A320 that just departed. Tail number 2749? Yes. The right engine harmonic is off by about 2 hertz. Might want to have maintenance check the fan balance when it returns. The silver-haired woman laughed out loud. Well, I guess she's already on duty. Mr. Thompson shook his head, smiling. I'll alert the maintenance team. And Sophia? Welcome officially to Atlanta International. As people filed out of the hearing room, congratulating her, Sophia held tight to her mother's hand. Through the windows, planes continued their eternal dance of takeoffs and landings. But now, finally, she wasn't just watching from the sidelines. She was part of keeping them safe. Sophia's first official day as junior safety observer started at 6 a.m. She stood at the employee entrance, her new ID card hanging around her neck, watching the sunrise paint the runways gold. Ready, kid? Jim the mechanic waited by the door, now her official supervisor. Ready? She adjusted her safety vest, making sure her name tag was straight. They walked through the maintenance hangar, the smell of jet fuel and metal filling the air. Mechanics nodded as they passed. No more suspicious looks, no more questions about why she was there. First task, Jim said, handing her a tablet. Morning inspection of gate A1 through A12. Show me what you've got. Sophia took the tablet, already pulling up the inspection checklist. But something caught her ear, a high-pitched whine from the hangar's far end. That's 777 first, she said. Listen to the APU. Jim cocked his head. Sounds normal to me. It's cycling too fast. About 0.3 seconds off rhythm. He checked his own tablet. How did you? It just came in for APU maintenance. Sophia was already walking toward the aircraft. The auxiliary power unit's turbine is probably unbalanced, a new voice finished. Spot on, Miss Jackson. Mr. Thompson stood in the hangar doorway with a man Sophia didn't recognize. The stranger wore an expensive suit and carried a leather briefcase. Sophia, meet Dr. Marcus Chun from the National Transportation Safety Board. Dr. Chin stepped forward. I've been reviewing your file. Quite impressive. Thank you, sir. Sophia clutched her tablet tighter. The NTSB is very interested in your observation methods, Mr. Thompson explained, especially your viewing angles for ground inspections. We're developing new safety protocols, Dr. Chen added. Your incident last week highlighted some blind spots in our current procedures. The APU's whine changed pitch. Sophia frowned. Excuse me, she said, but that sound means the turbine's about to Jim started. A sharp grinding noise cut him off. Warning lights flashed on the maintenance panel. Full shutdown now, Sophia called to the nearest mechanic. Before the bearing seizes, the maintenance crew scrambled. Within seconds, the APU wound down, the grinding noise fading. Dr. Chen raised an eyebrow. You diagnosed that just from the sound? Different problems make different noises. Sophia shrugged. I've been listening to planes for a long time. Indeed. He opened his briefcase. Mr. Thompson, I think we can proceed with the proposal. What proposal? Sophia looked between them. The NTSB wants to create a training program, Mr. Thompson explained. Teaching mechanics and inspectors to use your observation methods. My methods? Your angles, your listening techniques, your attention to subtle details. Dr. Chen pulled out a document. We'd like you to help develop the curriculum. Sophia's head spun. But I'm just the person who spotted a catastrophic fuel leak that our standard procedures missed, Mr. Thompson finished. Sometimes fresh eyes see things experienced ones miss. There's more, Dr. Chen continued. We're establishing a scholarship fund for underprivileged youth interested in aviation safety. You'd be our first recipient. The grinding noise from the APU had stopped, but Sophia's ears rang. That's too much. Actually, her mother's voice came from behind them. It's not enough. She stood in the hangar doorway, wearing her new administrative uniform. No more cleaning cart, no more invisibility. Mom, Mr. Thompson told me about their plans. She walked over, placing a hand on Sophia's shoulder. Baby, you've earned this. All of it. But what about school? And my duties here? We'll work around your schedule, Mr. Thompson assured her. School comes first, then your regular safety observations. The NTSB training program can happen on weekends. And, Dr. Chen added, we're prepared to offer your mother a significant promotion to accommodate the new arrangements. Sophia looked at her mother, who nodded. Full benefits, she said. Retirement plan. And she smiled. An apartment closer to the airport. No more 2-hour bus rides. The morning sun streamed through the hangar doors, glinting off the aircraft's metal skin. Somewhere outside, a plane took off, its engines singing their familiar song. Can I think about it? Sophia asked. Of course, Dr. Chen said. But first, he gestured to the 777. Tell me more about how you diagnosed that APU problem. For the next hour, Sophia walked them through her process. How different malfunctions created distinct sound patterns. How viewing angles could reveal issues hidden from standard inspection positions. How small details, a drop of fluid, a misaligned panel, an odd vibration, could point to bigger problems the mechanics gathered around, taking notes. Even Jim learned a few new tricks. It's like a different language, one mechanic said. She hears things we've been missing. Not missing, Sophia corrected. Just hearing differently. Anyone can learn it, and that, Dr. Chen smiled, is exactly why we need this program. Later, during her lunch break, Sophia sat at her old observation window. Her safety vest felt more comfortable now, the ID card a familiar weight around her neck. Her mother joined her, carrying 2 sandwiches from the airport cafe. No more packed lunches from home. You know what this means? Her mother said, unwrapping a sandwich. College. A real career. A future I couldn't even dream of giving you. Mom? Sophia watched a plane taxi past. Are you happy? With your new job? Baby, for the first time in years, I can breathe. She took Sophia's hand. No more 16-hour shifts. No more choosing between rent and groceries. And most importantly, she smiled. No more watching my brilliant daughter hide her light. Sophia squeezed her mother's hand. I just hope I can do it all. School, work, the NTSB program. You spotted a fuel leak that professional mechanics missed. You diagnosed an APU problem by year. You earned the respect of everyone in this airport. Her mother's voice grew firm. You can do anything. Through the window, planes continued their eternal dance. But now Sophia wasn't just watching. She was part of their story, part of keeping them safe. Okay, she said finally, Tell Mr. Thompson and Dr. Chin I'll do it. Her mother hugged her tight. Your father wanted to fly planes. You're going to help make sure they all fly safely. For once, the mention of her father brought no pain. She had found her own path, her own way to touch the sky. Her tablet beeped. Time for afternoon inspections. Duty calls, she said, standing up. Her mother watched her go, pride shining in her eyes. Sophia walked through her airport, head held high, safety vest gleaming in the sunlight. She had a job to do, lives to protect, and a future brighter than any runway lights. The real estate agent's keys jingled as she opened the apartment door. 2 bedrooms, newly renovated, 10 minutes from the airport. Sophia stepped inside, her safety vest still on from her morning shift. Sunlight streamed through large windows, illuminating a space 3 times the size of their current apartment. And it's really in our budget? Her mother asked, running a hand along the new kitchen counter. With your new salary? Easily. The agent smiled. Plus, the airport's housing assistance program helps with the deposit. Sophia walked to the window. No more broken air conditioning unit rattling outside. No more sirens from the rough neighborhood. Instead, she could see planes taking off in the distance, their shapes clear against the blue sky. The second bedroom could be your study room, her mother said. For all those aviation books. Before Sophia could respond, her tablet buzzed. A message from Jim, get back here. 747 with weird engine harmonics. Need your ears. Go, her mother said. I'll handle the paperwork. Sophia ran to her bicycle, a gift from the mechanics after her first week on the job. The ride to the airport took exactly 8 minutes. She counted every day. At the maintenance hangar, Jim waited with the engine diagnostic equipment. Listen to this. The 747's engine spooled up. Most people would hear nothing unusual, but to Sophia, number 3 engine, high-pressure turbine. She cocked her head. The blade timing is off by about 0.2 seconds, which means early stages of bearing wear. It'll need replacement within the next 50 flight hours. Jim checked the computer readings. Exactly right. Again, he shook his head. The NTSB team arrives tomorrow to start documenting your methods. You ready? I think so. Sophia adjusted her safety vest. Is it weird that I'm more nervous about that than actual inspections? Nah. Inspections are just you being you. Teaching others? He grinned. That's new territory. Her tablet buzzed again. A message from Mr. Thompson, my office. Now, good news. The operations building felt different now. People nodded as she passed. Some even knew her name. Mr. Thompson wasn't alone in his office. Dr. Chun from the NTSB sat with him, along with Rachel Chun and Mr. Roberts. Sophia recognized the businessman from Flight 2876. Hello, Sophia. He stood, shaking her hand like an equal. We've been discussing your future. She sat, conscious of her safety vest with its trainee badge. What about it? The scholarship program is approved, Dr. Chen said. Full funding through college, plus guaranteed internships with major airlines. And, Mr. Roberts added, my firm is establishing a foundation in your name. The Sophia Jackson Aviation Safety Initiative will sponsor other kids like you. Young people with natural talents who just need an opportunity. Sophia's chest tightened. Other kids like me? From disadvantaged backgrounds, Rachel explained. Kids who might never get the chance to pursue their aviation dreams without help. Mr. Thompson slid a document across his desk. But first, we need to make a few changes to your position here. Sophia read the title. Senior Safety Observer. Youth Division. No more trainee badge, he said. You've more than earned this. But she touched her current badge. I've only been here 3 weeks. And in those 3 weeks, you've identified 37 potential safety issues. All confirmed by mechanical inspection. Dr. Chin checked his notes. That's more than some full-time inspectors catch in a year. The youth division would be your project, Mr. Thompson explained. Finding and mentoring other kids with your kind of talent. Showing them it's possible. Sophia thought of her old spot by the observation window. How many other children might be out there, watching planes, seeing things others missed? When do we start? There's one more thing first. Mr. Roberts opened his briefcase. The passengers from Flight 2876? They want to thank you properly. He pulled out an envelope. Inside was an invitation. The National Aviation Safety Board cordially invites you to the inaugural ceremony of the Sophia Jackson Aviation Safety Initiative. Special recognition. The life-saving actions of April 15th, 2024. Everyone will be there, Rachel said. The passengers, the media, airline executives. My mom, Sophia, interrupted. She'll be invited too, right? Of course. Mr. Thompson smiled. She's getting an award too. Outstanding Parent Support in Aviation Safety Development. Sophia's tablet buzzed again. A maintenance alert. Routine inspection needed at Gate C12. Go, Mr. Thompson said. The future can wait. Right now, you have a job to do. She hurried to Gate C12, her new badge catching the sunlight. The gate agent, the same one who had dismissed her warnings 3 weeks ago, waved her through immediately. Thank goodness you're here, the agent said. Something sounds off with the boarding ramp hydraulics. Sophia listened. A faint hiss, barely audible over the terminal noise. Pressure valve needs adjustment. She checked her tablet. I'll have maintenance here in 5 minutes. As she waited for the maintenance team, Sophia watched a family board their plane. The father lifted his youngest child, pointing out the window at the wings, explaining how planes fly. She thought of her own father, who had dreamed of flying but never made it. Somehow, the memory hurt less now. Her mother's words came back to her. You're going to help make sure they all fly safely. The maintenance team arrived. As Sophia explained the valve issue, she noticed a young girl watching from the terminal, eyes wide with curiosity. Hey, Sophia called out. Want to see how the boarding ramp works? The girl approached shyly. Her clothes were worn, like Sophia's used to be. I like planes, the girl whispered. Me too. Sophia smiled. Want to learn something cool about hydraulic systems? As she explained the basics to the wide-eyed girl, Sophia saw Mr. Thompson watching from a distance, nodding approvingly. Maybe this was the real turning point. Not just changing her own life, but opening doors for others like her. Her tablet buzzed one more time. A message from her mother, apartment's ours. Move in next week. Sophia looked out at the runways, at the planes taking off into the endless sky. 3 weeks ago, she had been invisible, the cleaning lady's daughter who watched planes from the shadows. Now she stood in the light, her safety vest bright, her badge gleaming, her future stretching out like an open runway. The young girl pointed at an approaching plane. What kind is that? That's a Boeing 737-800, Sophia said. Want to learn how to identify them by sound? The girl's eyes lit up, and Sophia remembered her own first discoveries. Maybe this was why everything had happened. Not just to change her life, but to help others find their wings too. The morning of the ceremony, Sophia stood in her new bedroom, adjusting her first ever formal dress. Through the window, she could see planes taking off against the sunrise, close enough now to identify each one by sight. Baby, her mother appeared in the doorway, wearing a new suit. The car's here. A Blacktown car waited outside their new apartment building. No more bus rides, no more worn-out sneakers on long walks. The driver opened the door, treating them like important passengers instead of invisible workers. Atlanta International Airport looked different from the main entrance. Sophia usually came in through employee security, heading straight to the maintenance hangar or inspection rounds. Today, a red carpet led to the main conference center. Ready? Her mother squeezed her hand. What if I trip? Then you'll get up and keep going. Just like always, they walked in together. The conference center had been transformed. Model aircraft hung from the ceiling. Screens showed footage of planes taking off and landing. And everywhere, photographs. Sophia in her safety vest performing inspections, teaching other kids about aviation. There she is, Mr. Roberts called out. He stood with a group of familiar faces, passengers from Flight 2876. The woman with the baby rushed forward. Sophia, meet Emma. She held up her daughter. The baby you helped save. Sophia touched Emma's tiny hand. She's gotten so big. 6 months old today. The woman blinked back tears. We picked today on purpose. It felt right. More people gathered. Jim and a maintenance crew, wearing cleaned-up versions of their work uniforms, gate agents and ground crew members. Even Officer Martinez stood in his dress uniform. Miss Jackson, Dr. Chen appeared with a group of officials. The FAA representatives would like to review your new inspection protocols before the ceremony. Actually, Mr. Thompson cut in. She has a more important meeting first. He led them to a side room. Inside, 5 kids aged 10 to 14 sat nervously in new clothes. Sophia recognized the girl from Gate C12 last week. Your first student group, Mr. Thompson explained. All spotted by our gate agents and maintenance crew. Kids who show the same attention to detail that you have. Sophia looked at their faces, different races, different backgrounds, but all with that same look she used to have. The look of seeing things others missed. Hi, she said. I'm Sophia. Want to learn something cool about planes? For 20 minutes, she taught them about engine sounds and fuel patterns, wing angles and hydraulic systems. They asked questions she would have asked, saw details she would have noticed. A bell chimed outside, ceremony time. Remember, she told her students, nothing's more important than speaking up when you spot something wrong. Even if people don't want to listen at first. The main hall had filled with hundreds of people. Aviation executives, safety officials, media crews. But Sophia focused on the front row. Her mother, her students, the Flight 2876 passengers. Mr. Thompson took the podium. 1 month ago, an 11-year-old girl spotted something our most experienced personnel missed. Today, we're not just honoring her actions. We're changing how we think about aviation safety. He unveiled a plaque, the Sophia Jackson Observation Deck. Our main terminal's observation area will be transformed into an education center. A place where young people can learn about aviation, where future safety observers can develop their skills. Sophia's mother wiped away tears as Rachel Chun presented her with a certificate, her official promotion to Administrative Manager of Youth Aviation Programs. Then Dr. Chen stood up. The National Transportation Safety Board is proud to announce the standard operating procedure, now known as the Jackson Protocol. A new set of inspection guidelines based on Sophia's methods. More speakers. More announcements. A scholarship program. A mentorship initiative. A children's book about aviation safety. Finally, Sophia's turn at the podium. Her new badge caught the light. Senior Safety Observer. Youth Division. She looked out of the crowd, then down at her notes. Instead of reading them, she spoke from her heart. A month ago, I was just a girl who loved planes, who watched them every day while her mother cleaned the terminal. I saw things because that's just how my brain works. Patterns, details, small changes that meant big problems. She touched her safety vest. Now I get to help keep planes safe officially. But more importantly, I get to help other kids like me. Kids who see things differently. Kids who just need someone to listen. She gestured to her students in the front row. They're out there, at every airport, in every city. Kids with gifts they don't even know they have. All they need is a chance. The ceremony ended with a surprise. Mr. Roberts handed Sophia a set of keys. Your new office, he explained, in the observation deck. For your youth program. Sophia led her mother to the office. The nameplate read Sophia Jackson, Director of Youth Aviation Safety Initiatives. Through the window, she could see her old spot, the worn blue chair where she used to sit alone with her borrowed books. I'm proud of you, baby, her mother said. So proud. Mom, are you happy? Really happy. Look at me. Her mother stood straight in her new suit, her old exhaustion gone. For the first time in years, I can see a future, a real future. For both of us. A commotion outside drew their attention. Sophia's students pressed against the observation windows, pointing at a landing plane. Miss Sophia, the youngest, called. That 777's right engine pitch is different from the left. Sophia listened. The child was right. She grabbed her tablet, already pulling up the maintenance request form. Her students gathered around, watching how she documented the issue. See, she told them. That's how it starts. You hear something, you say something, you help keep people safe. Through the windows, planes continued their eternal dance of takeoffs and landings. But now Sophia wasn't watching alone. She had a team, a purpose, a future she'd never imagined. Her tablet buzzed, a maintenance alert from Gate A15. Coming with me? She asked her students. They nodded eagerly, eyes bright with the same love of planes that had started her journey. Sophia led them through her airport, No longer the invisible cleaning lady's daughter, but a leader, a teacher, a protector of the skies. Her mother watched them go, smiling through tears of pride. Above them, planes soared safely into the endless blue, carried on wings of steel and the watchful eyes of those who saw what others missed. Sophia Jackson, age 11, had found her calling, and she was just getting started.